My name's Gil Michelini. I will be your moderator today. We're going to be discussing difficult questions of constitutionality. We were talking earlier, kind of 1984-ish, George Orwell, and we also noticed that several people don't know who that is. So maybe during the course of the conversation, we'll get to talk about Mr. Orwell. Our format for the debate, we're going to introduce our members, each team one, correct? Team two? Or do we, okay, 1, 2. Team one is going to have, each member is going to have 1 to 2 minutes to make their point. Then team two, each member will have 1 to 2 minutes to make their point. Team one will come back and they have 1 to 3 minutes, each member does, to make their,
As a team.
any member, excuse me.
As a team.
And then team two, any members can come up in 1 to 3 minutes. Now, we, the group here, will take a poll of what we think of their message. And we're going to do that first, too. We're going to take a poll by hand to see if we are in favor, against, or neutral about the topic. And then at the end of the debate, we're going to see if they've done anything to persuade us. And then we'll have an evaluation of that. We're going to do our evaluation as all of us that are out here will evaluate each one of the members. We'll start here and just work our way around. Maybe just give some feedback to each one of the members. You are going to be very busy, Mr. Timer. So as each member is up here, could you tell us what you're going to be doing with the cards so that we're sure on which cards they're going to be seeing? They're going to have 1 to 2 minutes to each member to make their point initially.
Okay.
So what, could you show them what colors they will be seeing?
Sure. For 1 to 2 minutes, the green card will represent 1 minute, yellow card 1.5 minutes, and the red card 2 minutes.
And we want to be sure, just to be fair to everyone, when you see the red card, you just have to stop wherever you are, and that way it's fair for both teams. All right, excellent. Thank you, sir. And then the 1 to 3 minutes would be green at 1, and yellow at 2, and red at 3 for their second part of it. Any other items we want to say beforehand?
What's the topic?
The topic is, did you write it down? The activities of NSA constitutional or unconstitutional? So let's go ahead and take our poll. Let me read the question again. The teams will be arguing if the activities of the NSA, which of you, is anyone not familiar with what we're talking about? Or they've been kind of, okay, fantastic. The activities of the NSA, are they constitutional or unconstitutional? So how many members out here think what the NSA has been doing, what was revealed, is constitutional? Go ahead and raise your hands. All right, all of team one. So everyone else believes they are unconstitutional, what they've been doing. You gotta vote.
I'm neutral.
Listen, I want to be audited. I think you're a tax cheater.
So we have, no one believes it's constitutional, and everybody but one believes it's unconstitutional. Is that fair? And one person is neutral. All right, fantastic. Let me start by calling up, we'll switch these around.
Gil, I'm sorry, just
Yes,
one quick
go right
question. On the time clarifying, so the different rounds constitute different times, or it's all maximum 3 minutes
For the second round,
for the second round? Okay.
they are going to have 1 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Got
So
it.
right now, each member is going to come up, and that's the 1 to 2 minutes.
Got it.
And we're going to start with Mr. Hebert here. So, Bill Hebert.
Good morning, Toastmasters. I will begin by talking about the constitutionality of the NSA spying. This is authorized by the Patriot Act and also the Foreign Intelligence and Surveillance Act called FISA. These acts are based on a 1979 Supreme Court decision based on Smith versus Maryland and an early 2013 refusal by the Supreme Court to hear a challenge to FISA. The Smith case is interesting. Mr. Smith snatched a lady's purse, jumped in his car, and drove home. After getting home, he looked in the purse, found the lady's name, address, phone number, and started calling her and harassing her. He He also drove by her house to stalk her. One day the lady looked up and saw his car driving by, so she jotted down his license plate number and notified the police. A few days later, Mr. Smith locked his keys in his car, so he calls the police for help. The policeman shows up, jots down the license number, and they realize they've got their guy. However, they're wondering, is he the one that's making the harassing phone calls? So the legal authorities, without a subpoena, or with a subpoena, but not a court order signed by a judge, demanded the local telephone company track his phone calls. The technology in the 1970s was able to prove he was calling the lady. He was arrested and convicted in a trial. On appeal, his attorney argued the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution applied to telephone numbers he had dialed. The Fourth Amendment grants people the right to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure by the government. He argued the government cannot start recording that without a search warrant signed by a judge. The prosecutor cited a prior case involving a Georgia bootlegger undone by his bank records. The prosecutor insisted the Americans have no expectation of privacy of information they transmit to a business. In this case, the telephone company. The Supreme Court agreed. So this Smith decision provides a constitutional cover for these laws that enable the NSA, FBI, and other government agencies to compel banks, telephone companies, internet providers, and others to hand over government information on individuals or corporations. That's our beginning.
Thank you, Bill. Now, Debbie Horn.
That's the first part of the story. The second part is, for years, as technology has advanced, back in '79, did any of us have a cordless phone? Did any of us have a car phone or a cellular phone? We did not. As technology improved and we began to get wireless phones in our houses, did you know that at that time the courts reviewed the cases and they said that that is wireless technology? That signal goes through the air, just as if I'm walking down a street and I'm talking about a crime that I committed and another person overhears me. Same thing. So as we have advanced technologically, our laws really haven't changed. If I talk about something on a phone with a cord, and I usually can assume that I have privacy. I might be even able to take that to court that I have privacy. But when I change that phone to a wireless phone, it is considered to be like a radio frequency. It's free in the air. Just as if someone overhears me with that wireless technology, the same as if someone overhears me talking on the street. Did you realize that Russia, when it was the Soviet Union, would record our calls? If you would say certain words, that they would be picked up and they would be intercepted? Our government was using the same technology. Why were they doing it? To protect each one of you. I have a neighbor who was a lieutenant colonel in the military. She said, as a military officer, that any time she was overseas, she could expect that someone from the Soviet Union would be intercepting any call she made, any communication. You see, those people who are responsible for our protection, those individuals are aware of all this. We are very naive. You know why we're naive to this? Because we are so well protected by our government, who is looking out for us, who is taking care of us, who is protecting us from people who do not have our best interests in mind. Fellow Toastmasters, our government is protecting us. They are not trying to impugn us or hurt us. Yes, they collect massive amounts of data, But do you think anyone has time to look through that and find out that an individual was having a conversation about a party or an event that they were going to have, or that someone else didn't want this other team to win? Of course not. That's all trivial information. But they use hooks, they use certain information that will trigger recording, so that if an individual is trying to act in a way that is...
Time. Thank you. Brian, could you yell out when the 2 minutes come?
Sure, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's
I
all right.
didn't really
We weren't
see
clear.
that.
Oh, really? I thought, okay, I thought you did. I didn't want to be
didn't-
distracting.
No, you
Sorry,
need to
guys,
be
we weren't
distracted.
clear.
Okay.
Yes. And now, Walter Wolf.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guest, it's time that we wake up. It's time that we creep out of our naive thoughts. It's time for America to finally understand the fact that what has been going on with the NSA has been going on since the conception of our country. The government has always been watching its citizens. And if you don't believe that, you're in for a naive shock. Because that is the way governments survive. Keeping close attention to the people that they are representing. Under the guise of, we are protecting you from foreign intervention. Since we have accepted those facts as being something that our government normally does, which is to protect us, this is why I'm saying that we need to wake up as a people and realize where our protection is coming from. The NSA is a relatively new organization. It's not something that's been around for like 100 years or whatever, but there have been different and varied other information gathering groups. CIA, they are budgeted, but no one knows what the budget is. The NSA is budgeted, but we don't know what the budget is. This is in reference to them actually protecting us. And if we think this is not true, we need to look back in our history. Foreign espionage attempts on our country have been thwarted by our intelligence agencies. This is a part of life that we see and that we say we are American. We believe in democracy, which we do.
That's everyone from Team 1. Team 2, you want to start with Bree? Bree.
Fellow Toastmasters, is there a clear definition between spying and protection? In 1949, George Orwell wrote, "Big Brother is watching you." Pretty prolific, or his book, 1984, in which he described a totalitarian government that suppressed people's individuality, that enforced deception, secret surveillance, and manipulation. Edward Snowden, when he talked about mass surveillance to the press, it's pretty eerily similar. Again, protection, spying. Aren't we a country that was based on freedoms and liberties? Doesn't our Constitution outline that? So the NSA is doing, when we look at that, you might be asking yourself, is it all that bad? Is it, come on, it's for the greater good. And even the president says that's a necessary measure to gather data for potential leads of people who might be engaging in terrorism. But again, we're a country that was granted liberties and freedoms. What Drew and Mustafa will talk about is how the actions are unconstitutional, that they are governed under the Department of Defense, and what they are doing is in fact impacting on our liberties. It's violating the First Amendment, the rights of free speech and association, violates the Fourth Amendment, and protects us from privacy, or protects our privacy and unlawful searches. And then it also directly exceeds the authority Congress gave with the Patriot Act, Section 215. So I ask you, is it protection or is it spying?
Now, Drew.
So we got a little outline of the NSA, and I want to ask, what does this mean for people in America and other countries? Well, for each individual, we know that we're recording info in regards to their personal communications. This includes where you're at, who you're calling, and the frequency, no matter what. This also includes where you're on the internet. If you're not an American citizen, there is no protection in regards to what information they collect. And if you're an American citizen contacting a non-citizen, they're probably recording information. There's a lot of difficulty in regards to separating data on what's coming from out of the country and what's not. So just to be safe, a lot of times they're recording information about you as well. The government's affected. They're expending a great deal of energy, time, money, recording and monitoring data. This includes on you and other countries. When you're recording data on other countries, it's has implications on affecting the way that we relate to other countries. We know this is a global economy at this point, and our relationships with other countries is going to determine our country in this direction that's going. The other countries are aware that we are collecting data on them. There's internet traffic that comes through America, and we monitor that. Therefore, we're spying on other countries as well. Society in general, this increases paranoia amongst our citizens through the fact that we are spying. We know that we're spying, and we know there's a good reason for it. But this also affects people of foreign descent and people who are not citizens, and how we treat those people. So ultimately what I want to ask is, I understand there's a question of, is this protection? But I want to ask, is this constitutional? Is this constitutional? Is this what our Constitution is founded on? There are more aggressive governments who use intercepted info to control their citizens, including Syria, Iran, Egypt, and China. The technology to do this is sold to them by us, America. Who's to say what could happen with our capabilities and our constitutional rights and personal
Lucifer. Good morning, fellow Toastmaster, our opponents. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm glad to be here. What I'm going to be talking about is what NSA does. Is it constitutional? How many of you have heard of a document called the Constitution? Raise your hands. Everybody. How many of us have read it? Raise your hands. 3.5, 3/4. There are something called amendments in it that I learned a couple of years ago when I came to the U.S. The First Amendment to the Constitution is about the right of free speech and association, which, as I understand, means I can say whatever I want as long as I'm not imminently hurting somebody physically, putting somebody in danger. So what NSA is doing violates that right of free speech, because whatever I say here, NSA can record it, either through my phone or through cameras or who knows what. And my association to this group can be tracked through my email. So I am not a free American citizen. That's my concept of being an American, is that I am free. I'm not a Chinese citizen, I'm not a Syrian citizen, I'm not even a Pakistani citizen, because I know governments there do a lot of stuff without concern or without respect for my freedom. So I think that this NSA spying activity, I know they're trying to keep us safe, and I appreciate it, I want to be safe. But I also want to be free. Why? Because I'm an American. And America is about freedom. So as we continue to talk about it, keep this in mind. We are Americans, and America is the land of the free. Thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you all very much for your insights. And just as a reminder, we're listening to their insights for two purposes. We're going to give an evaluation at the end, and also to listen to their ideas to figure out if it's changing your thoughts on this particular topic. So now we are going to move into the concluding remarks, correct? Each one of the teams, Mr. Timer, is going to have 1 to 3 minutes to make their concluding remarks, and any member of the team or members can be a part of that. And we will start with Team 1. If you are ready to begin your concluding remarks, Team 1.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. In conclusion, I think we need to remember that I agree with everything our opponents have said, but one of the benefits of our country are the checks and balances. We don't want to let the NSA go too far, and at the same time, we want to protect our country. We have to remember that although we forget that we're at war, the terrorists are at war with us. As of 9/11, since then, we've done a very good job of just kind of keeping track of the bad guys. But there have been a few near misses. The shoe bomber in Detroit who almost blew up a plane. The car bomber in New York City who was caught almost blew up part of New York City. These people are out there trying to do things to us. We need to do what we can to intercept them and find out as soon as possible and stop them whenever possible. Thank you.
Anybody else? Or?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Do I get?
Yes,
From this
you get the whole
side.
3 minutes, whatever you guys want to do.
Fellow Toastmasters, you have the right to pursue life, liberty. You have the right to pursue your life, to have liberty, to pursue happiness. No one has prevented any of us from attending our churches, from having free speech. None of that has been stopped. No one's been jailed for that. What the government is trying to do is sift information. There is a massive amount of information. They are sifting through it to find people who will prevent you from pursuing your happiness. They're trying to find individuals among us that we won't necessarily see who are going to create terror or try to inhibit or overthrow our government. All of this is being done so that you can continue to live your life, to have your freedoms, to go about your business, and not worry about your liberty.
Fellow citizens, I hope you all are wearing smiles any place and every place you go. And the reason I say this is because you're on camera. You're on camera everywhere you go. We accept this as a modern day, so it is. Why? Why are we always on camera? Part of it is for security. Part of it is to make sure that we don't steal things. Part of it is because that as we cross the street and we get hit by an automobile, it's going to be on camera. It's a legal tool. It can be used as a legal tool. The Boston bombers during the marathon, how close do you think we would have come to capturing these folks if it had not been on camera? So it's a legal tool. Constitutionality now, let's talk about that a little bit. It takes 2/3 of the states to ratify a change in the Constitution. As the Constitution is now, to have it changed, of the 50 states, it would take, what, 2/3 of 50 is 45 or so? So it's has to be ratified by the states, which is not going to happen, to take away any of our constitutional rights. We have in place probably the world's best security system for our country. I would venture to say, and I have no reason of numbers to back this up, but I would venture to say that we would all be very fearful if we knew of the plots that the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI has stopped So what I say to you is, become accustomed to living in an area that is protected by the auspices of the federal government. Many people say we need less government. If we had less government, we wouldn't have the agencies and the protections that we have now. We wouldn't have the buildings that are safe compared to other buildings throughout the world. So I'm saying the NSA is a necessary, quote, unquote, evil. If we don't have it, we're going to be in much more jeopardy than what we would have if we didn't have the NSA, the CIA, and the FBI, and your local police department. You don't need a policeman until you need him.
Now for their concluding remarks, Team 2.
Just take it. If you're being recorded, it's okay. It's for your good. We are at war. That never seems to end, right? Who cares about our right to have a search warrant before we are searched? It's for our good. So just take it. I'm not willing to take it. I think we were good as a country before 9/11, and we are still good as a free country after 9/11. I just feel that that pendulum of freedom has shifted from being a little more free to be a little less free. Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, once said that they who can give up essential liberty for a little bit of security deserve neither of them. So I'm just here to emphasize the point that the pendulum has shifted a little too much towards the government-controlled snitching, or whatever you call it. And we need to bring it back to the middle so that we are, once again, a free country that we've always been. Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of highlight some information that our opposing team shared about the Boston bombing. Terrible tragedy. We're all very aware of that. My question is, what part does NSA play in that? Are we supposed to get somebody after the bomb goes off? Or is it to prevent? From my understanding, these people came from across the world into our country to that specific purpose. Where was the NSA in our protection to prevent this tragedy from happening? I want to go back on another point in regards to more aggressive governments using the information that they collect to control their citizens. And that equipment sold by the US. I want to leave you with, who is to say what could happen with our capabilities when our Constitution and basic human rights are being violated? Thank you.
That is the end of the concluding remarks. I want to thank both of the teams for outstanding. Now let's take our poll again. How many believe, after hearing our very studious members up here talk, that what the NSA has been doing is constitutional? Go ahead and raise your hands. We definitely have a shift. How many believe that it is unconstitutional? Fantastic. And anyone neutral on this topic? All right, hey, this definitely worked. You changed some minds, fantastic. Now, let's do the Toastmaster part. Let's go around and do some evaluations. Holly, let's start back with you. If you want to give an evaluation of a member, or overall evaluation, or let's just hear evaluation, however you were taking them down. So, if you want to do it from there or up here, whichever you prefer.
Okay. My evaluation of the debate, I thought everyone was well prepared and gave great arguments for both sides. I kind of put my hand up a little bit for unconstitutional. I was a little neutral. I'm still in the middle there because I believe that it's unconstitutional to actually listen in on every single call, and it would take away our freedoms. But I'll have to say that Deb really was starting to sway me a little bit, and I think it was the way that she presented it, and it was just kind of kind, and how she was saying, no, really, it's not like that, and how you were trying to persuade the argument. So I think that you were making me go in that direction a little bit as well. But I think everyone was extremely well prepared.
Fantastic, thank you.
Just to echo Holly's comments, I thought everybody was very well prepared. I could tell people had done their research on the topic. I said constitutional just because the debate was, is this constitutional? I agree with Mustafa that it does. While it might be constitutional to me, it seems un-American, and it does make me feel less free when I know somebody's monitoring my phone calls or monitoring my email correspondence, whatever that might be. At the end of the day, I think Walter mentioned necessary evil, and I kind of latched onto that, and I guess that's what my feeling is. It is a necessary evil to keep us safe, albeit, again, I'm conflicted because my primary fear is that the next level is going to be surveillance on domestic protest groups, if you will. So anybody's got a healthy protest against their government, all this infrastructure is in place, and again, it's a different world that we're not used to living in.
Right. Thank you. Jessica, right?
Jessica.
And
Yes.
Jessica is a Toastmaster from another club, so definitely interested to see what you have to say.
Yes, I'm from Fort Harrison Toastmasters, and I'm actually looking for a new club. That time and place doesn't suit well for me. So.
Come to us.
It might. I think that both sides did a really good job of presenting your points. I think that Team 1 felt stronger. I feel like they felt more confident based on their posture and their speaking voice, as well as they included a lot of data, which this side didn't. I'm still on this side, but I think that they presented, because they just sounded more confident, I think, because of the data and their postures.
Fantastic.
This is Jack.
Jack?
Yep. All right. I thought everybody was very well prepared as well. I kind of agreed with what you said. I think you guys had a little bit better specific examples. Bill in particular brought Patriot Act and FISA. But I thought you guys made a very compelling argument as well. We had some issues with time. I know Debbie had an issue with the time. You didn't maybe see it, but that kind of took a little bit away from your argument. But I thought everybody's well prepared. I'm kind of in the same boat as well. I think it's unconstitutional, but I'm actually also in favor of it. I think if we made a new amendment, I think that's sort of a necessary evil that you have your text messages and phone calls monitored for our safety. So,
Great. Fine. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I think both teams are well prepared, and I was really surprised to see this team make a good argument. I mean, because I thought it's difficult to come up with that kind of argument, but you made a very good argument compared to this team. I mean, you are also very prepared. I like Mustafa's conclusion very well.
Fantastic. Finally, our man who was neutral to start with.
Coming into it being neutral, it was a very good debate, and it did kind of swing me on my thoughts on it. To start off with Group 1, is it constitutional? I'm thinking, yes, it is constitutional after hearing the argument. Back to what you guys said, what I remember is Mustafa talking about the pendulum. And that kind of stuck in my head, very vivid, that, are we getting over to the side where, things could start going downhill from there? So the arguments presented very well, everyone spoke very well. I think, are we going too far over the edge? Maybe, possibly, but I still think it may be constitutional, but is it right? Maybe not. A lot of good eye contact, good rebuttals. You guys had great rebuttals to what they presented. It was more data and more, more tugging of the heartstrings over on this side, and more kind of propping up you guys' position on this side, which I thought was done very well, especially by Drew and Bree. I would love to see Walter and Lucifer go at it. So this is very eye-opening for me. I really enjoyed it. I like protection, but I also like my freedom. So so I got a lot out of it. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Before we ask these guys for their evaluation, how they felt, how it went, I'm just curious, who thinks this group won the debate? Okay. That's about half. And winners over here? Okay, fantastic. Well, since we started with this group each time, let's start here. Mustafa, could you tell us your evaluation of the debate, how you thought it went, or any insights you have as a participant?
I think I was awesome.
I did too, Mercer.
That's just kidding. I think it was pretty good. I think we all learned how to debate. And as we said in the beginning, it's not about winning or losing or the content. We were just trying to learn how to debate, and I definitely did learn how to debate. So thank you.
I also think Musafar did awesome. I think these guys really did a good job too. And like you said, they really brought up some arguments that kind of made you just kind of get your mind a little bit. Because when we first gave a little bit of rounds to say what you guys thought, obviously you guys didn't really think it was constitutional, but they kind of fooled you a little bit, which was good. Definitely was a learning experience for me because it's the first time we're doing this sort of thing. So I'm thankful for the experience.
Great.
I think my team was great. This is not a topic that I really enjoy. I hate politics, if you can tell. In fact, when I sat down to meet with the guys, it just messes with my energy. So, yeah, you guys did great. I have to admit, though, being that I was born in '79, when you brought up, I was like, it's kind of an archaic thing, but whatever. And so it was definitely a learning experience. I think that next time, maybe if we did a more positive energy topic that was all butterflies and bubbles, I'd be happier to participate.
Fantastic.
I found it very interesting to do research on a topic that I had not really studied much before. As I'm reading this article, reviewing basically that the precedent for all this is based on the conviction of a purse snatcher. I realized, is somebody making this up, or is this for real? So it was very interesting doing the research and just seeing what was going on.
Great.
I thought this was really outstanding from the point of, we are Toastmasters. We want to learn how to speak. What better exercise than to take a side that you're very uncomfortable with and defend it? So I thought, as far as having something that was interesting to the club, something that was not the routine, when you want to really grow, what do you have to do? You have to get out of your comfort zone. You got to do something different, and you've got to stretch. We did all that today. I would like you to attend another meeting so you can see what the normal meeting is like. To be fair, we would love you to join that club. We'd love you to join our club too. But I just thought, as far as what our goal was to stretch and do something different and have a meeting that was not like every other meeting. I don't see how it could have been more successful.
Fellow Toastmasters, I graduated from protest school, magna cum laude. I was involved with the anti-Vietnam protest. I was involved with the civil rights protest. I was involved in other numerous political protests. I am one of these people that believes in the ultimate freedoms for the American public. But I also am one of these people that realizes that at times, and I hate to say this, I genuinely hate to say this, that we have to take a step back and say to ourselves, what are we willing to give to be safe? I know what Benjamin Franklin said. I agree with that. However, 3,100 people on 9/11, the troops we have lost in Afghanistan, Iraq, pursuing our freedom, so it is said. I also like to keep in mind that our conversations are not being listened to. Our conversations are being recorded. There are key words that prompts the computer to send what we say to someplace else. And if you use certain words, if you use jihad, if you use 9/11, or if you use the word terrorism or whatever, I don't know what the key words are, but whatever those key words are, that is the conversation that gets sent someplace. It's not, hello, Bonnie, how are you doing today? Hey, did you enjoy your rice last night? Did you put a lot of curry in it? You know, they're not listening to that. They're not listening to that. If I had said, hey, Bonnie, you're from India, how's the jihad going over there? Okay, automatically it's picked up and gone to someplace, okay? So we have to really understand what is and what is not happening. And I think the average American has taken too many steps back and disassociated themselves with what is really going on in our country, and that we need to be more active. Like I said, you're looking at Mr. Protest, magna cum laude. Thank you.